Good afternoon, everybody. Meteorologist Frank Gaetano here, live from the Hail Palace for our daily hail forecast. As always, sponsored by C3 Group, Merlin Law Group, American Contractor Show, and Atlas. Check out their pages. They're linked in the description to this video, so go to their Facebook pages and check them out. We've got back-to-back risks in the Central Plains today. Both of them are marginal for now, so we have a marginal wind risk today, and then we have hail and wind risk tomorrow in the Central Plains. And then we also have a potential Day 3 risk for Saturday, as that's going to transition a little bit eastward into the Central Plains and upper Midwest areas. And then finally, we do have Tropical Storm Fiona, so we'll give you a tropical update of how she's looking and where she will be headed and how strong she is forecast to become. But first, as always, in our upcoming events, before I address this, September 24th, we will be at another tailgate at the OU game. It's going to be OU versus Kansas State. We'll have a graphic ready for that hopefully tomorrow with times that the tailgate starts and game time and all that stuff. And then later on, September 27th through the 29th, we're at the RCAT MRCA Roofing Conference. That's going to be in Fort Worth at the Fort Worth Convention Center. So we'll have a booth there. Come out, talk to us, and come see us there, September 27th through the 29th. Take a quick look at yesterday's storm reports. Not a lot happened yesterday. There was a few wind reports that were up to severe limits and one sub-severe hail report. We only had 4 wind reports up here in South Dakota, and then the sub-severe hail report right on the Nebraska-Kansas line. And we had another couple wind reports here in far southwest Texas. So not much to speak of severe weather yesterday. And today we do have another marginal risk. Currently we have this complex of showers that's dissipating in the risk area, and other than that, off to the east it's clear, kind of pleasant conditions, not really high dew points across a lot of the country today, so it's not really all that terrible. So as I mentioned, we do have this complex that's dissipating, and this is expected to dissipate as it moves northeastward, and then our risk area should clear out for storms to develop later this afternoon, and we see those temperatures going up in the Central Plains right now in around the 80s, and we do see the delineation of this weak cold front that's associated with this trough that's kicking through. And I mentioned the dew points not being that crazy, so here they are. Not really that bad here in the risk area. That's kind of why we do have a marginal risk. If we had higher dew points, a little more moisture in the air, we would probably see a more substantial risk, but generally pretty comfortable across most of this area, even down into the southeast. Only 58-degree dew point in Atlanta. We haven't seen that in quite some time. And what's that going to feel like? Here's our feel like temperatures. Generally in the 80s right now. It's not too bad. Not too bad, and it's not going to get very, very bad today. We do see the temperatures take up into the upper 80s and the 90s here in the southern plains, but the feels like temperature isn't going to be in the hundreds like it has been previously. Jumping right into our risk area, we're going to be showing this dissipating as it moves off to the northeast, and then storms firing off this afternoon and evening. Storms up here by Sioux Falls, and then we work our way back to the southwest as more storms fire here in central and eastern Nebraska, generally moving northeastward. These are generally going to be wind producers, only a few of them. I don't really expect crazy amount of wind reports to come in today. So this is the northern half of our risk as those dissipate into the morning hours and overnight hours tomorrow. And we're going to check out the southern half of our risk area here in Kansas. See storms developing this afternoon and working their way northeastward across central Kansas. There's a possibility that we could see some storms further south in the Texas Panhandle, but a lot of the convective allowing models have not been showing any storms firing, so it's a pretty conditional risk. So I do have them out of the risk area for now, but we do have storms that are supposed to fire in central Kansas and work their way eastward through the overnight hours as they weaken. So we're going to take a look at what that looks like for our hail forecast, which there is none. So no severe hail expected for today. And we'll hop right into the wind forecast. I'll show you where I'm forecasting the potential for wind today. Here in the Central Plains, only a few cities to highlight here. Sioux Falls and Grand Island for Nebraska, and we'll work our way south here. and low-end risk for winds up to 60 miles per hour for Great Bend, Kansas, and Dodge City, Kansas. So generally winds up to 60 miles per hour with any storm that can really get going over those areas. Hopping into tomorrow's future radar, see storms developing in the afternoon in southeastern Wyoming, and those are going to be working their way eastward. Generally, the hail risk should be early on as they are isolated when they fire, and then they're going to work eastward, kind of band up, hitting North Platte in the evening with a potential hail and wind risk there, but the wind risk is going to increase the further east that you go with these storms as they continue to push eastward into the overnight hours. So jump into looking what that hail risk looks like. I mentioned that it's going to be earlier on, so it's going to be a little bit further to the east as storms initially fire here in eastern Wyoming. And Rapid City, you do have a small chance of the northern end of that cluster of storms impacting you with hail up to $half size. And the only other real population center is North Platte, so another small chance for hail for North Platte. What's the wind risk look like? Well, it's going to be starting basically where the hail risk is, but a little bit further east into central parts of Nebraska. So generally the same cities. Rapid City, you have a chance, small chance for winds up to 60, 65 miles per hour, and the same thing for you, North Platte, over towards the Grand Island area as well. After that, I do expect those storms to start to weaken in the overnight hours. So I think our risk ends here around the Grand Island area. So what about after that? Here's a look at our storm system track. Here's what the jet stream is currently. Let's push it through into tomorrow. So we're looking at tomorrow around noon. We still have this ridge in the east and a trough building in the west. Here's our risk area for tomorrow, and we're going to push it into Saturday, and it kind of gets a little bit more straight zonal flow. We do have a small ridge left here in the east, but we do see that trough deepening out west. So that trough is going to continue to deepen as we get into the weekend. We have this little wiggle here. This is where we're going to be seeing the potential for severe weather on Saturday from places like Minneapolis down through the Kansas City area. And as we continue to push, we see that trough deepen in the west, and then we continue that zonal flow here in the central part of the country. And then eventually, going into the beginning of next week, we do expect a ridge to build in through the central part of the country. So we would be seeing some risks hopping up over the top of this ridge. So potentially up in Canada, if they can work their way far enough south with those shortwave troughs, we could see some risks up in the northern plains as well. So I did mention Saturday. This is what we're looking at for Saturday. I have Minneapolis in the risk, Omaha in the risk, and Kansas City in the risk right now. Obviously, we have a couple of days to hone this risk area, but this is the general area that I think hail and wind will be possible on Saturday at the beginning of the weekend. So that's what we're talking about for hail and wind. Let's hop right into our tropical update. Here is the satellite for Tropical Storm Fiona. She's definitely getting a little bit more organized as we can see that outflow pushing out from the storm system, and a little bit more symmetry starting to form here as we let this satellite loop through. She's moving due westward right now and definitely becoming a little bit more organized. Here's our tropical tracker. So right now, 50 miles per hour for sustained winds, and as we push into tomorrow morning, they think it's going to be up to about 60 miles per hour. So that's tomorrow at 8 a.m. and then Saturday at 8 a.m. still sitting around 60 miles an hour for those sustained winds, so tropical storm force winds, and then it's expected to intensify just a bit up to 65 miles per hour by Sunday morning as Puerto Rico is impacted. So Puerto Rico is in the sights of Fiona right now. Expected to be a direct impact at this point, but anywhere within this cone is where she may end up. And then a continued 65 mile per hour estimation for those sustained wind speeds forecast as she moves away from Puerto Rico and off to the northwest. So that's what we're expecting. We do have Fiona at our name right now, so the next one is going to be Gaston. It's been a lot slower this season than we really expected. We expected to be past G at this point, but here we are. So we have Fiona, and the next up is our G name, which is Gaston. So make sure you stay with us and stay updated for our daily tropical updates as well as our hail and wind. If you want to follow us, you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. We are at Hailtrace for all of those, so it's easy to find us. And if you want to get in contact with us, it's 855-334-4245. You can email us at info@hailtrace.com or go straight to our website, www.hailtrace.com, for more info. I'm meteorologist Frank Gaetano. Everybody have a great rest of your Thursday.